Hey, welcome to The Warrior and the Wolf, the show where you can show up authentically, be safe, be seen, and have somebody that's going to come alongside you and help you fight for what you want. Let's get after it.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Warrior and the Wolf podcast, episode 21 today. I am the Wolf right over there.
I'm the Warrior, and now we're legal to drink.
Exactly. We are that many podcasts. And I'm excited about today's podcast for the simple fact that you know how big of a mindset junkie I am. And I know that we've done a mindset podcast, but this one we're calling it Keeping Your Head in the Game. Basically, how do you and I, as men, keep the mindset that we have and who we want to be in mind when, I guess, for lack of a better, when shit gets real, when shit goes down, how do we continue to show up the way that we want to show up from a mindset standpoint? So I guess I'll just start firing at you, my friend, and that is
Sweet.
What's a time probably in the last few weeks where something just simply didn't go the way that you wanted it to, or you thought that it would, and you were tested.
Yeah, just the busyness of life has just hit us over the head. I mean, and in a good way. Like I'm still trying to figure out like what I want to be when I grow up job wise. I'm in school to finish that, so I'm really proud of that fact. But in the meantime, I have responsibilities, so I'm working a couple part-time gigs, which has taken me out of the house and stuff like that. But the kids are back in school. D's were also working multiple jobs. I'm coaching 2 football teams. I have a men's group. So I get like one night a week at home. And then, so it's like, how am I like keeping my head in the game and working on the things that the things that I've worked for and not completely blowing it up. Cause honestly,
How
in
are
the
you doing that?
past,
Like, how?
yeah,
Because that is stressful. You're not wrong. Multiple jobs and kids at school and a wife with multiple jobs and you're going to school and you have a men's group. Like it's a lot like that meme. Me trying to drink enough water and do this and do this and do this and do like. It always seems like there's an and. So when you have all of these ands coming into your world, how do you get yourself into a place of, hey, I want to make sure I'm showing up a certain way?
I'm lucky enough to have, I mean, you've met her. She's amazing. So, um, D and I have created
Misty's
space
pretty great.
where we can actually we figured out that having honest conversations about how we're feeling and how we're feeling super stressed out and
Right.
laying it out there as to why and taking 35, 40 minutes, even an hour, whatever it might be, sitting down, having a glass of wine if it need be, but sitting down and saying, here's what's going on and here's what's driving me crazy. How can we come together and keep this going? And
Right.
even sometimes there's not even a solution. It's just like, hey, I'm really freaking stressed out about being gone every single night, and I'm really stressed out about you being gone every single night. But then we talk about like the goals and the means and what that's producing. So, and that's not for everybody, but for me to be able to keep my head in the game is having that space to be able to have a conversation with her and invite her into that. Be like, look, I know like shit's been really stressful. So let's talk about like why and what we're doing and what we're going forward, and look at like maybe where there's going to be a reprieve, or look at a night for us like, hey, where's a night coming up where we can get a sitter and go out and have some appetizers and a drink and just connect and talk about whatever we want to talk about, not have to be doing homework or talking about Bluey. Or it's a great show,
You
by
know,
the way. But
you talk about reprieve. I'm anxious to know because I got to believe that I'm not the only human listening and watching to this right now that is anxious to find the next reprieve in my world. But what I have found is I have a tendency to fill that space.
mm-hmm. and
Like,
I
so,
used to too.
what does reprieve look like to you?
For me, it's just a brief couple hour period where we can just sit and connect. For her and I just connect about we talk about things like trips and food or places restaurants that we really like and want to go back to, or even talk about like what the kids are doing and kind of laugh. What I've discovered is when I put all the life's bullshit down to go out for a couple hour dinner, it's there when I get back. Like I'm going to have to deal with it anyway.
So
I
the
could,
question for me then, Aaron, is this: what kind of man do you want to be?
we talked about in the last episode, like how do you want to show up? How do you want to show up differently? So the man I want to be is I want to be a man that can create that space, or take the initiative to create that space for my wife and I, knowing our life is stressful. That's speaking to her needs and taking care of the people around me and taking care of myself. I want to be a man that it's okay to call a timeout.
Mm.
Like it's okay to take time out and take time for myself, for my wife, and for my kids and do something.
So what kind of man calls a timeout?
I would say it's a caring man. I mean, that
Oh,
for me, that's what somebody who cares, somebody who really cares about what's going on
so you want to be
in
a
their.
caring man?
Mhm.
Love that. I dig that, man. And I think that so many people are going to be able to identify with the chaos and everything else of a day to day schedule. And just, I mean, the word reprieve really resonated with me because I was like, I'm always looking at my calendar. Okay, how many days do I have to run like a striped ass ape before I can take a step back, breathe a little bit, and recollect myself? Because I run high energy, no question about it. I run high energy. I run
Yeah,
full schedule, and I'm always looking to the next thing. So it's very easy to get tired. So I am looking for that reprieve. That was great.
and that's one thing I found to keep my heads in the game specific, and I know for my wife to keep our heads in the game of what we have to do every day in life. We have to take time out to take care of ourselves. You have to take time out to just breathe.
So
But
what does
she's
taking
also
care of
the
yourself look like?
you know uh, for me, so I'll start. As a family, we love camping. Like that's kind of our family reprieve. And camping sounds like a lot of work to people, but like it's work we like to do. Like when we go up to the mountains and we camp, and it's crazy. So like for the first day, it takes us a full day because we're like, oh, like her and I are both like, hey, we should be doing something. Like I just want to
Yeah.
sit around and read a book, but I feel like I should be doing something. It's like we literally have nothing to do. We're in the mountains, off the grid. So giving for me, like for us to keep our head in the game, it's giving ourselves permission to take a breath.
Hmm.
Because so many times, I think, especially as men, we're just told when shit gets hard or it gets real, put your head down and push through and get to the other side.
Yeah.
But what I have found, especially what you're talking about, is there's something else always on the other side. So there's always going to be something to push through. There's always going to be something that's going to take attention and time.
Well, and like you said, you can get away on your date night real quick with D, right? But that doesn't change the fact that everything you left is still going to be there when you get back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I get that.
But it's intentionally putting that down for a minute and going and
Right.
being able to talk to her like a person instead of going over calendars and schedules.
And you said the key word, at least from my seat, you said a tremendously key word, and that is intentional.
Yeah.
I think it's vitally important, especially with the kind of man, because you want to be a caring man. I think you absolutely have to be intentional in that space.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you like, especially like in our with having small kids, I can't just leave my 9 and 4 year old. I mean, I've thought about it. I'm kidding. If anybody else is listening, remind me of a funny story to tell you at the end of this about like kidding about saying stuff about your kids. It almost got me in trouble. Um, but really, like like we have to find a babysitter. We have to find a time that something else isn't on the calendar. We have to be, and that's what makes for me. That's what makes it special. Like honestly, like for her and I to like really carve out time and be intentional for each other
Right.
is special, and we cherish that time. So
Well, so in the chaos of the day to day that you're talking about here, what's the message that you receive from her that she's taking time out for you?
That she cares, that we care, that she
Yeah.
still loves me, still wants to. We want being intentional is huge. I would
And,
say in a marriage.
and clearly for you wanting to be a caring man, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
that's easily, I'm sure if we were to have Dee on here, she would absolutely agree she feels cared for.
In those aspects, I mean, if we're gonna get real, and we like to keep it real here, like it's not just all rainbows and unicorns and butterflies. Um, earlier this year, I had a moment where I did not keep my head in the game, and it almost cost me everything, really. And there's an episode about it, so I'm not putting anything out there that we haven't already talked about. So if you want to go back and listen to that episode, but it's what led me into led me into therapy, led me into the medication aspect, just led me into a lot of different things to take care of myself because I wasn't intentional about keeping my head in the game.
Yeah.
And I let emotions and anger and depression and sadness blow up all over my family, cause a massive fight, threaten to harm myself in front of my wife. And for me, not being, I'm just going to keep using the word, but not being intentional about it and not being aware of my blind spots. We talked about it in the battle plan episode. Like, what were my blind spots?
Well,
And
you bring something up there, brother. And I don't want to cut you off because I can tell you're on a roll. But one thing for me, you just brought up a very important point to this entire conversation. Keeping one's head in the game is not an easy thing to do.
No.
It is super easy for me to get off track in that space. I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I looking, we're obviously big. We've talked about a lot of sports analogies, but I look at the the goats, the greats. Talk about Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, even Patrick Mahomes. As much as it pains me to say it right now, or the Kansas City Taylor Swifts, as we should call them now. You see all those guys. Something goes wrong, especially like you look at like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, something goes wrong, throwing whatever, sports analogy. If you don't get sports, just hang with me. It'll make sense. They're always on the sideline looking at some sort of iPad printout film to look at what they could do better next time.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's talking about the blind spot, keep my head in the game. Okay, what did I do wrong? How did I screw this up? And what can I do better next time? So, for me, a big way to keep my head in the game is I'm a big proponent of journaling. I have about 4,700 unfinished journals, just because I like to buy new fancy leather-bound journals and fountain pens that Sean makes. Shout out to Sean for his pens that he made us. But no, seriously, getting my thoughts out. Like, again, I'm an external processor, but journaling has been able to let me get stuff out. So that's something that I do, to keep my head in the game, to make sure that I'm.
So a couple things to what you said. Number one, journaling is important. It's not something that I necessarily like doing. However, studies have shown you are 44% more likely to accomplish something if you write it down.
Mm-hmm.
You're 77% more likely to achieve something if you write it down and tell somebody, because there's the accountability piece in that. The other thing that I want to go back to is, okay, how did I screw this up and how can I do it better? That is actually something that I use to keep my head in the game. I like to call that negative self-talk. And it is something I am keenly aware of because it is something that I have had to work through.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, I screwed this up. Right. Enforcing that with negative self-talk does no one any good. So I would just encourage you, and this is kind of a segue into how I keep my head in the game, and that is just be cognizant of that. Like
Mm-hmm.
for me, the biggest concerns that I have and the things that I want to work through more than anything else, yes, the negative self-talk, which has gotten exponentially better specifically in the last 8 months, Um, but the other thing for me, limiting self beliefs,
Hmm.
that has been a plague for me, brother.
Yeah,
And
me
I
too.
know that it's funny. Actually, one of our very dear friends laughed at me on a leadership weekend I did a few weeks ago because I brought this up as a limiting self belief. I do believe that someone can do it better. For those of you who may not understand the joke there, that's
Oh man.
okay. Hit us up
Yep.
later and I'm happy to walk you through it. But I do believe that someone can do it better. I
Mhm.
believe that I'm not worthy. I believe that who am I? Who am I to
Yeah.
accomplish what I'm looking to accomplish? So the limiting
Mhm.
self beliefs have been a huge roadblock for me, a big hiccup and a
Yeah.
hurdle for me that I'm trying to work through. And so for me, the affirmation and I I have post-it notes. I have a whiteboard. I have whiteboards at my office. I have whiteboards wherever I go or something. So my favorite affirmation right now, I am a positive influence capable of leading well and creating the life I desire. And I think that that's important for me because I do get caught up that someone else can lead better than I can. Someone else does better podcasts. There's better podcasts than what we have.
Oh,
There's
I think
better
that all the
leaders.
time.
But
Yeah.
that's been the biggest hurdle for me of late is working through those limiting self beliefs. Like,
Yeah.
why try when somebody can just do it better? There's better
Yeah. It makes
podcasts.
sense.
Who's going to hear this? But then, and you said it in one of the episodes. I think it could have been the last one, where one of your kiddos, big YouTube fan, he's like, "Well, you only have 4 followers, and 3 of them are actually working on the podcast right now. But what about that fourth one?
Yeah.
What if I make a difference in that person's life?" So so I appreciate the scale, and I understand that you're joking when you say the Kansas City Taylor Swifts, but it it may not be an NFL size stage. It
Yeah.
might not be, but if I have the impact that I want to have on even one person, then I believe that to be sufficient. I have determined that my why is to leave a legacy that I can be proud of. And it varies. It depends on the suburb of my kingdom that I'm talking about.
Hmm.
But the the all encompassing legacy that I want to leave is that I'm remembered fondly. You smile when you hear my name or you think of a memory with me. And so, yeah, somebody might be able to do it better. There might be more subscribers on somebody else's podcast. But when you ask the people that I impacted, they're going to smile.
Yeah. And I totally agree. And honestly, like I make those jokes in jest because here's my dirty little secret about keeping my head in the game too. This platform and this podcast is a big way for me to keep my head in the game.
How so?
One, I mean, it's like journaling. Like I get to like talk about all the shit that I'm going through, and knowing that it will. And I say we have 4 subscribers on YouTube, but I know there's dozens of people that have reached out to me or you that we have touched and helped, and
Right.
people are like, hey, that's awesome, like your story. I was telling you about pre-show a couple shows ago that about a dear friend of mine whose story is incredibly similar to mine, and I had no idea.
Right.
um so it's funny, so I want to go back and talk about the negative self-talk. So I know we've been a big proponent of that. I know it sounds like when I say how did I screw this up and how can I do it better, and I know that sounds negative, and I really get how that would sound negative, but me and my affinity for like the military and that kind of stuff. So there's something in the military that they do. It's called an after action report, so an AAR. So that's kind of what I like to do, is like after a situation I like to sit down and be like, okay, well, what went right and what went wrong, and how can I keep doing the things that went right, and how can I fix the things that went wrong. And I don't believe that's negative because things do go wrong. I mean, when you blow up on your family and threaten to harm yourself, something went wrong.
Right.
So
Well,
maybe a better way, instead of saying what did I screw up, is like, well, what can I improve upon?
and see, that's why I think that negative self talk is such a big deal when we're talking about mindset and we're keeping our head in the game, when we talk about how we keep the mindset when shit gets real, that's a mindset thing. Okay.
Yeah.
That did not go the way that I wanted it to go. I wanted a different result. So what opportunities are there for me to get better the next time that this happens?
Yeah.
I believe that's how I want to approach it, because telling myself I screwed up again doesn't help my mindset at all. So I
That's
think
fair.
that words matter.
They do. Words matter.
I know that there's a lot of discussion around, do words matter or do they not? I'm a firm believer that they do. So rather than saying you screwed up, hey, I know, Aaron, I promise you what happened a few months ago. As much work as we do, we've talked about it before, we're never going to hit the pinnacle. There's always going to be work to do. What happened a few months ago in your person will happen again.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the opportunity that you have, right, is to start coaching yourself. Hey, I want to be this caring man. I want to be this. I want to be this. I want to be this. And the more that you put it into your head, and again, this podcast is great because it's basically writing it down and telling someone. This is accountability at its highest, right?
Yeah.
So I would just encourage you. I believe that words matter because our cells are always eavesdropping on our thoughts. Always.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And I guess that's another way for what you're talking about. That's another way for that I keep my head in the game. Is those I look back at the work that I've done. I look back at where I was 5 years ago and where I am now. I look back at where I was a year ago and now, and that's how I was like, cool. Like, look at all this stuff that you've done.
Yeah.
Like, you've done some really cool stuff, dude. And this is me talking to myself. Like, you've done some really hard stuff so you can keep doing it and going forward. So that's a different way for me to keep my head in the game. And maybe a really simple thing is self-care is super important to keep my head in the game.
What does self-care look like to you?
So we kind of started touching on it earlier when you asked me, like, what do we do? And I started talking about camping and stuff like that. So that's what we do for the family, like date nights with the wife, camping. We try to make time for us to go away on one extended trip at least a year. It's hard with small kids. But for me, I love golf. So getting out and playing an early morning round of golf. I've turned into one of those crazy cold plunge people.
See, I think that's negative self-talk.
No, it's not negative self-talk. There's a stigma around like cold plunge people. Like, it's like, hey, if you don't post a selfie of yours going to the gym, did it actually happen? It's like, if you don't post a video of the cold plunge, did you actually get in the water? So I don't put it out there, but like I've discovered it and I love it, and it helps me focus. Because the mentality, it sounds simple. It's like, dude, if I can put my body first thing in the morning in 48-degree water for 5 minutes, I can do anything throughout the rest of the day.
So you hit on something there that I want to talk about. You told me what you do as a family, and you told me what you do as a spouse, and so on and so forth. But I want you to answer and you started to.
Yeah.
What do you do for self-care? And I appreciate golf, and I appreciate the cold. What else?
Well, so the cold plunge has been big because it offers a chance for me to meditate. Like, meditation and taking a quiet moment for myself has been huge.
Okay.
So, and that's what I use that cold plunge time for. But physical activity, working out, being in the gym, and I've kind of let that go. But that's something I'm going to get back into. For me, keeping my head in the game, music. I love listening to music that speaks to the stuff that I'm going through. Not everybody has my same taste in music, but there is a band, and they're, I guess, what we consider a metalcore band, but it's called The Ghost Inside. And when I was really going through some stuff and feeling really, I would listen to some of their songs over and over and over again. And it just speaks to what I've been through. So, to the point where I'm going to share, if I can pull it up, I want to share one of the lyrics that really helped me keep my head in the game. But that's for me. And talking with you, talking with the guys in our group, downloading on that is a way that I keep my head in the game. So yeah, that's for me is just taking time to do something. We have talked about how important my faith is. So
Yep.
spending time reading the Bible and journaling and praying. So here's the lyric, and then I'll turn it over and find out what you do. So this is a lyric. So the song is called One Choice. Again, the band is called The Ghost Inside. Super heavy if you're into that kind of music. If you're not, email Mark. Or Brian, because the wizard is the musician in the group. So the lyric for the chorus is, "I won't bend, I won't break through the darkest of days. I remember, I survive, I don't surrender." And it says again, "I won't bend, I won't break through the darkest of days. I remember, I survive, I don't surrender."
Good
So
stuff.
that was. They have another lyric for a song that says, "Life's swinging hard, but I'm swinging harder."
Mm.
So
Well,
just stuff like that. It's like my survival and my thriving after that is very important to me.
very much the theory of it's not how many times you get knocked down; it's how many times you get up.
So and I'll end mine with that. That's really the number one way that I keep my head in the game. When I start feeling down, I start getting that negative self talk. It's like, man, you suck. You don't have any value. You don't have any skills. And I really sit down and catalog like the stuff that I have survived and been through, and then I'm standing here and, in my opinion, thriving. That gets my head right back in the game and focused on the goals.
Well, and I think it's important to understand too, and remember as you're going, you have a lot more to give.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I texted you the other day. It said I'm feeling like a major badass today.
because you are.
Well, yeah, but it's a different space for me to be in. It's like, cool, like, dude, you're pretty badass. Like, you can get through this too.
So, what about you as a badass?
That I'm a survivor. I have fought through some serious shit, and I am still here. And I'm not only just here, but I'm using what I went through to make a difference.
You're a survivor and you're making a difference. What else?
I mean, I think I'm a badass dude. I care deeply. I love well, and I fight hard. That's what I say about me, and that's what keeps my head in the game.
Love that.
So that would be my advice for anybody else that's in my situation, or you feel like it's hopeless, so you can't keep your head in the game. Is like, look back at what you've been through. Look back at what you have fought through. Look back because if you're still here, you're a survivor of something.
You have survived 100% of your hardest days.
Yep. And if you've done it before, you can do it again. And if you don't feel like that, then sit your ass in some cold water for 5 minutes and see what happens.
Love it.
So, what about you? How, other than the mindset, like specific examples, like how do you keep your head in the game when it feels like it's lost, like the battle is lost or the game is lost, or there's no.
Yeah, like I said, the limiting mindset has been the limiting beliefs have been a big deal over the last few weeks. That's what comes readily to mind in some of the battles that I've had for keeping my mindset, and very much a doer. Um, I get a lot of validation in accomplishing things. So I wrote out some big, hairy, audacious goals over the last few weeks. And sitting on my biscuit doesn't get me there. Not to say that that's bad, because we're going to talk about self care, I'm sure, and I'm happy to share how I do that. And sometimes that is sitting. But when I'm in my zone, uh, I'm unstoppable, dude. I really, really am.
That's a fact.
I yeah. So I once I've got it in my head that this is just something that has to get done, I'm fiercely determined in that space. So I guess for me, writing out goals, writing out how I want to achieve what it is I want to achieve. Like I said, writing stuff down is a big deal. Telling people what I want to do so there's accountability, because as you are aware, one of a big part of my story is I don't want to let people down. I want people to like me. So if I have somebody holding me accountable and I don't accomplish what I'm looking to accomplish, I feel bad because I feel like I let them down.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like I said, a well thought out goal and then work backwards with my plan. Okay, so here's what the end goal is. What needs to happen to get there?
Yeah.
And then
So
realizing
reverse
what that
engineering.
first step is, get the first step, get it done.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. It's like I told you, man, I'm a huge believer in mindset. I believe that mindset, gosh dang, even when it comes to hiring, attitude over skill level any day of the week. Because if you have the right attitude, I can teach you whatever skill level you have to have in order to
Oh yeah.
accomplish the job the way that we're looking to have it accomplished. I genuinely believe, and again, negative self-talk, stuff like that. It's all mindset. It's all mindset related, all of it. So not to say that it doesn't pop up and hey, you're not good enough. And hey, right out of the gate, you went backwards and you have this first step and the first step's a pain in the ass. Right. But
So
obstacles are what you see when you take your eyes off the goal. You said you wanted this. Do you really want it? And if the answer is no, say that.
yeah.
But understand something. It's either because you don't want it or because it got hard and you quit. Who do you want to be?
Yeah.
Because
So
I learned something about me, and then I want you to ask your question.
yeah. Go ahead.
I learned something about me over the last weekend.
Yeah,
And
I've been on that weekend.
is I play small.
Mm-hmm.
I play it safe. I don't have big, hairy, audacious goals because what if I don't accomplish them? Then I fail. Well, playing it safe never got anybody anywhere. That just kept me. It's a revolving door because it's safe. The only way that I'm going to be able to get out of that pattern for myself is I got to swing for the fence, knowing full well that I'm capable of doing it. So yeah, but playing small is something that I do. I realized someone was talking to me about, oh, okay, so this person's doing it, this person's this person, and so you're next. And I'm like, no, it's not my jam. And I realized I didn't even think about it. I just said it wasn't my jam. I didn't process it. I didn't think to myself, well, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. Now just may not be the time. I just went with it's not my jam, so I could be safe.
Yeah.
When, as I look back at it, you know what? It damn well could be my jam.
That's all pretty fire, man. I can't really add anything to that. But my question was, well, all that's great, and I love everything you say, and like I'd run through a wall after you talk to me. But specifically, like when that thought comes up, or that thought, or something is going on, and that thought comes into your head because you said it, so I'm gonna say it again. Well, somebody can do that better.
Mm-hmm.
What is something specific? Because I know you're not the only one that struggles with it. I struggle with it, but I guarantee you somebody listening or watching has that same thing. We talk about imposter syndrome. It's like, somebody could definitely do that better, so I'm not going to do it. Just give me maybe one or two things specifically that you do when that thought pops in your head to combat that and keep your head focused on the goal.
Gosh, and I hate to use the same old tired thing of self-awareness. I just realized that's a message that I'm receiving, and that's not the truth. Like, oh, maybe, because again, even when I say it's not my jam, the self-awareness piece is, why is it not your jam? Because you want to be safe?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Well, what's not safe about what you're wanting to do here? Well, I could fail. Well, fail how? Like, again, when I go back to the whole leadership thing, am I going to lead on an NFL size stage? Maybe not. Maybe not. But that doesn't mean, like, if I want to specifically lead from a stage that size, then that needs to be my goal. That's not my goal. It's not. So, like, do I believe that someone can speak, to an audience or from a larger stage better than I can? Of course I do. There's people doing it right now. Does that mean I'm not capable of doing it? It does not.
Yeah.
So again, when we talk about words matter, that's why I get so passionate about this, because yeah, I do believe somebody can do it better. One of my words for this year is actually silver, because if you win gold, okay, you can't get any better. You're the best in the world. Well, dude, I always want to get better. There has to be something about me that can get better. So the word silver came into my vocabulary this year because I'm always wanting to get better. So, and like, I don't think that I ever want to be the best at something. I always want to be continually evolving and learning. So I guess for me, when I get into that mindset, what do? Okay, recognize what's true about me.
Yeah.
And sometimes that
That's
means,
what I was
okay, so
looking
stop.
for.
Yeah, like stop for a second. Okay, why did that just pop into my head? Why do I think that somebody could? Is it because I am accepting this message, or there is a limiting self belief? Just what is it about me that's going on in my world that I'm willing to buy into this message? Because that's all it is.
Yeah.
It's a message that I received. No one has ever said somebody outside of one time, and even
I have
that
no idea
one,
what you mean.
but even that one time, that's not what was said.
Yeah.
It's not what was said, but it's the message I took on.
Yeah. It's important. It's important to flip that.
Yeah, I just think that stopping for me is a big deal.
I think for somebody like you that's super driven and just go, stopping and taking stock of what's going on is extremely important.
Yeah.
It's talking about that somebody can do it better. So I've been working on my book, writing my book, right?
Yep.
Somebody in my life wrote a book who I look at, I'm like, you wrote a book? Like what? Like, okay, cool. Like good for you. Like published it, put it on whatever. But then I called DM, like, I don't want to run my book now. I was like, because this person did. And she's like, well, that's dumb.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's fair. So we were up camping and she's like, all right. She's like, so here's the challenge. And she put it out in front of Sawyer. So now he's aware. She's like, Dad's going to finish his book by the end of the year.
Well, and that's what I would encourage you to. But
it's that accountability thing you were talking about. But I'm saying it's that accountability stuff.
Lord knows I'm scared of D. But even to say that's dumb, that's not fair. It makes sense.
Well,
right?
It was a dumb sentiment. She said for me to say
no,
but listen.
I buy in.
Fair.
I buy in. I do. Yeah. I understand where she was coming from, but I think words matter.
Yeah. But no, it impacted me because that sentiment is dumb. Like, it's not negative self-talk. That sentiment to say I can't write my book because somebody who wrote a completely different book in a genre somewhere else is a dumb sentiment to have. And it's not negative self-talk.
It's a dumb sentiment. Think you're going to have it again?
Probably.
Yep.
But then I can go back and realize, you know what? That's dumb. Don't think that way.
It's not dumb. It's just there. That's all it is. It's just there. And that's okay.
But I think it's different with me saying I'm dumb or I'm incapable. Sometimes thoughts are stupid. So I'm sorry, but they are.
I simply disagree, and that's okay. I've always told you. What have I told you about me writing a book?
I don't remind me.
Not going to happen, dude.
Yeah.
Not my jam. Somebody told me last weekend, dude, you need to write a book.
Yeah.
And so there I sat. I think that I'm just willing to buy into the fact that, it's safer if I don't write a book because it's outside my comfort zone. But if someone tells you you should write a book because of the impact you had on them in that moment, write the fucking book.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And that's why I'm doing it. But, and I think this is a point we're going to have to agree to disagree, where ideas can be dumb. Like, I'm just saying, like, getting, like, a full Taylor Swift back tattoo. Dumb idea. That's my judgment.
As long as you are willing to own that it's judgment.
It's judgment. But I do agree with you on the negative self-talk of me saying I'm bad at something or I'm stupid or I'm incapable. That script has to flip.
I guess the only reason I'm so passionate about this, Aaron, is this. I think that it's so easy for me to buy into somebody is better. No,
Yeah.
that's the message you received. No one ever told you that someone could do it better than you. It's a message you took on somewhere, when in reality, what's the truth about you?
Oh, that I'm a badass?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you think that someone is badasser than you?
Yes. But I'm
Does
okay
that
with
mean
that.
you're not a good badass?
No, I'm okay
No.
with that.
And that's why I say I believe it's vitally important to understand that it is a message that I have taken on throughout the. No one has ever said, I'm not worthy of doing it. No one has ever said, I can't do it. No one has ever said, I can't lead, I can't speak, I can't coach, and I can't do these things. It's all up here. It's a message that I took on somewhere. And that's why I think it's super important to understand that a negative self talk
Yeah.
and the limiting self beliefs are exactly that. They're messages. That's not
Yeah.
what's true about you.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
I get all fired up and passionate.
I know you do. But unfortunately, our clock is telling us that we are out of time for this one.
That's all right.
So-
dude, I like this one. This one was fun.
I'm going to let you take this one. I'll take the last word because I think if I let you take the last word, we'll do another 45 minutes on this one.
you
know, I
know,
love hearing you talk about it, though.
I
which
think
is
the
why I
last
brought this up.
word. I think the last word for me is already done. I said it just a minute ago, and that is, it's important to me that as you listen to this, as you watch this, whatever platform you're consuming this on, the negative stuff that's going on in your head right now are just messages that you received from, and I'm sure they're justified. That doesn't mean they're true.
Yep.
You have a truth about you, and I encourage you to find out what it is about you that's true, and that way you can acknowledge it when you hear those messages play over and over and over. There's my last word.
Nice. For me, the tangible things to keep your head in the game when shit gets real or shit hits the fan is know your plan, know your blind spots, know your plan, be able to do that after action report, and know what you can improve on. And be okay with having areas you need to improve on.
Oh, yeah.
Allow yourself
always be improving.
Allow yourself a reprieve. Have moments where you can take time for yourself, for your spouse, for your family. And it's okay to take a breath and take a respite and a rest.
Yeah.
That's my best advice on that. So,
and grow a beard if you get a chance, because man,
grow a beard if you can.
You, my friend, look marvelous. Hey, as always, whatever platform you are listening or watching this on, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. It would mean a lot if you subscribe to the podcast or the YouTube channel. Like and comment, please, just so we have a better idea of what it is you're looking for and what you got out of the podcast. We really appreciate knowing that we had an impact in any way that we possibly could. If you want to find us on those sweet socials, you can do it Instagram and Facebook, the Warrior and the Wolf podcast, or you can throw an email our way, much like our sweet friend Lisa did, at the Warrior and the Wolf at gmail.com. We are checking that on a regular basis and want to connect with you again. We think it's vitally important to create a safe space for men and women to show up authentically. And that's what the entire goal of this show is. So if we can serve you in any way, please reach out. I am the Wolf.
I am the Warrior.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Later.